of the month of Elul, and we have the schus of learning together Maseches Pesachim Daf Chaf Vav Amud Beis. Chaf Vav Amud Beis. The Gemara is continuing with the discussion that we began yesterday with regards to an Egla Arufa, whether or not one would be allowed to derive any benefit from an Egla Arufa, trying to figure out whether we are learning from two psukim that teach us the same halacha, which got us back to the discussion of whether or not there is me'ila by reach, where the Gemara had concluded, or had attempted to conclude, that once something has nasa mitzvah, once a mitzvah has been done by it, then it can no longer have me'ila. And then we asked the question, what about Trumas Hadeshin? And we said maybe Trumas Hadeshin is an exception. And then we asked the question about Egla Arufa. And the Gemara had told us at the top of Daf Chaf Vav Amud Beis that with regards to the Egla Arufa, the bottom of Chaf Vav Amud Aleph, the Gemara had told us that Hachnisa Rivka v'Dasha Kshira b'Shvil Shetin v'Tadish Psula, that if you took an Egla into a pen in order to be there, you put it there, and it happened to thresh on the floor of the pen. It was crushing the grains there, and you benefited from that. That is still kshira, but if you put it in so that it would be able to nurse and it threshes, so psula, and that is because delay efshar v'kamechamen. The Gemara wants to suggest that is because there's no way of having it not nurse. It's going to die if it doesn't nurse, and you are getting benefit from it. Ketani psula, and the Mishnah says that the rest says that would be possible. And the Gemara had said shani hasim dichsiv asher loy ubad ba, that with regards to the Egla Arufa, the pasuk says that it cannot be worked. It cannot have work done by it. Says the Gemara, if that's so then even if you put it in there without intending to get any benefit, meaning you dafka, even if you didn't want to get any benefit from it, that would be a problem either which way. Says the Gemara, if that's so, then the beginning, even if you just put it in there and some work was done by it, that should make it possible. Says the Gemara, it is similar to this case. That if a bird landed on it, it became a resting stop for a bird, sure, it's still going to be kosher. But if it was mounted, if there was an animal that was attempting to mate with it, then it would be possible. Says the Gemara, my timer. What is the reason for this differentiation in halacha? Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Papa tells us, Iksiv avad. If the pasuk would have told you asher loy avad ba, that if you didn't work with it, that is going to make it possible. Meaning, you have to have an Egla Arufa that wasn't worked. So, if because of avad v'karinan avad, and we read the pasuk ayin beis daled avad ad da'avid ba ihu, then we would say until you worked it. Meaning, at any point in time, the Egla Arufa is a good Egla Arufa unless you worked it. Meaning, unless physically it was worked by a person. Iksiv ubad, but if it was written asher loy ubad ba, that it was not worked, v'karinan ubad, and we read it as ubad, that it wasn't worked in the passive tense, meaning it was written ein vav beis daled, so that would be very clearly in the passive tense. So then even if it was any kind of work that was done by it, then we would say in achnami, then it would be possible. Avad, but now that the pasuk says ayin beis daled avad v'karinan ubad, and we read it as was worked, meaning there's a ksav and a kri here. It's written as active and it is read as passive. Ubad dumya de avad. Now we can learn that these halachas have something to do with each other. It is ubad, but it's like it's avad. My avad hanichale. It has to be just like if you were to work it, it would be something that was good for you. Af ubad dinichale. It would also need to be an ubad that is beneficial for you, and that is the distinction between these two kinds of work. What is Rashi writes about this? What are these two differentiations here? It says the Gemara. It says Rashi. Says Rashi, ubad is mashma mimela avad. Mashma be a dime. Uvad tells you that it didn't happen by you, and avad means that you did do it. Va'af al gav the high be'egla ksiv tarvaya, and since by the Egla Arufa it's written both of these things. Yalfin mehadi gzera shava the all Maseches, and therefore you can learn that this is connected to the gzera shava of all with regards to asher loy Allah all with regards to the paraduma, which means that if an animal mounted it, then it would be possible, because that would be something that would be breeding oriented, even if it worked. Meaning, even if it didn't work, but an animal that happened to land on its head, so that's not considered to be dumya de avad. Says the Gemara as follows: Tashma. Let's see another situation of a potential issue with getting hana from something that you're not allowed to get benefit from. Says the Gemara. Let's learn the particular sugya. Aveda. If you have a lost object, this is lost expression. Loy aveda loy yishtachena. If you have a lost item that you found, you are not, say a garment, you're not allowed to stretch it out over your bed and not over a post or a frame. If you benefit from it, but you can spread it out for its benefit, meaning for the preservation of it. Rashi points out so that it doesn't rot, that it doesn't become moldy or dusty. You can put it over a bed, you can put it over a frame if it is good for that item. But if visitors show up, if guests are coming, don't spread out this as a rug or a carpet or a bedspread, even if it is for the benefit of the item. Seems to be that there's no way of you not getting benefit from it. If you're doing it for the benefit of the item, meaning the owner, so that the owner eventually will come and find his item intact, so good and well. But there's no way of you not getting benefit from it if the neighbors are going to come and go, ooh, look at that. You are benefiting from it. And that seems to be that you're benefiting from Mare, that it's looking like there's a benefit from it. Says the Gemara Shani Hatam, no, that's very different. The Kalele. Because when guests come, it is going to detract from this item, meaning the item is going to lose value. How? Either because of ayin hara, there's an ayin hara that will be placed on this item. People will be jealous of it, and that creates a destruction in ruchnis. Or people are going to see it and go, "Ooh, that looks very nice," and then it becomes a liability for theft. Says the Gemara, and that does not prove anything in either direction. Says the Gemara, Tashma, come in here. Mochri ksus, that merchants of clothing, mochrin kedarkan, are allowed to sell things as normal. Uvilvad sheleis kavin, so long as they are not intending to derive benefit from it. Bechama, impnei achama, ugsham impnei gshamim. From the heat and the heat, and from the rain and the rain. What items are we talking about here? Yeah, we are talking about items that are made out of shatnez. So the halacha is that one is not allowed to wear shatnez. Are you allowed to benefit from shatnez? Yes. You're allowed to sell it to a nachri. You're allowed to sell shatnez to a nachri. But you should not get, meaning, so you have the merchant, he's schlepping around all of these shatnez coats. So Morchen Gedarkan, you schlep it around. He's allowed to schlep it around, meaning he's allowed to carry it on his shoulders. Eventually is cabin, so long as he's not intending to get benefit from it in the heat, because the heat is not providing shade for him, and it's not providing rain coverage for him. Vatsnuim and tzadikim. That's literally people that are tsanua, meaning people that are machmer. Mafshilin la'acharim b'makel. They don't have it on their bodies. They put it on a stick. That's the classic idea of a salesman with a stick that has a bag tied at the end of the stick. That's how he's going to carry it around. Says the Gemara, V'ha hacha de'efshar. This seems to very clearly be a situation where it is efshar l'me'avid k'tznuim. You can always be machmer. You could do it like the tznuim do it. You don't have to wear it. And what the Bryce is telling me is that if I am doing this and I don't have intention to get benefit from it, but it is a case of efshar, then shari, then that is a dead giveaway that this is mutter. Says the Gemara tiyufta. That is an acceptable refutation Lemanda de Masni Lishna Kama de Rava Tiyufta. This is a good refutation according to that first version of Rava. The first version of Rava that wanted to say that in a case where you have Efshar and Loy Mechavin, that it would still be Aser. We have a clear brisa that Efshar and Ein Mechavin is Mutter. That is a Tiyufta. Says the Gemara. Okay, continuing with the next piece of the next piece of the sugya. The Mishnah told us that a person is not allowed to use chametz. We are still learning Maseches Pesachim. Back to the questions of chametz and matzah. So, or chametz and erev Pesach. You are not allowed to use the chametz as fuel for a fire, even though the mitzvah is b'shreifa according to Rabbi Yehuda, or according to everybody. So, somebody yotze with burning it. You're not allowed to use it as fuel. Says the Gemara Tana Rabban. The Brisa says to us as follows: Tana shisikai be klipei orla. What if I have a fire, an oven that I used the fuel that I'm using for it is klipei orla, is shells, peels that come from orla. I bekashin shell kilei kerem, or with the junk, the kash. The straw that comes from kilaya kerem, meaning not the actual kilaya kerem, not the wheat that I grew in a vineyard, that for sure is going to be also, but the shells, the husks, the garbage, the stuff that you need to get rid of. Chadash, or says the Gemara Chadash yutatz, that if it's a new oven that I was masked with these isurim, so yutatz, then it has to be broken down. Yashan, if it's an old oven, yutzan, then I need to cool it off. What's the difference between a new oven and an old oven? So anybody that has ever done a pottery shtick at some point in time knows that in order to harden pottery, you make the pottery and then you have to fire it in a kiln. If it is fired, if it's chadash, if it's fired, if this process, this very first time that you are lighting this fire is with isurim, so then you have fired up your kiln. You have effectively hardened your clay through isurim, and therefore it has to be broken. There's no other way to fix it. But if it's a yashan, but if it's old, it's already been fired up. So then what have you gained? Nothing. So you cool it down and then you're done. Says the Gemara, offer by as hapas. What if you baked bread in it? Rabbi tells us hapas asura. Then that bread is going to be asura. Hapas mutaris. That the bread is going to be mutar. So Rabbi says that it's going to be asur because Rabbi is saying that the heat has come from something asur. According to the Chachamim, they said that the bread is going to be mutar. Says the Gemara, Bishla gabi kechalim, and if he cooked it, carrying with the brisa, Bishla gabi kechalim, if you cooked it on coals, divrei hakol mutar. Everybody agrees that it is going to be mutar. Meaning, if what you cooked it on was the stuff is already burnt up, it's no longer recognizable as peels of orla or as Gilaya Kerem, as the junk that came from vineyard. It's just smoldering ash. So at that point, and you cooked it on that smoldering ash, so then divrei hakol mutar, everybody's going to agree that it is mutar. Says the Gemara V'hatanya, and we taught in the brisa ben chadash ben yashan yutzan, that whether it is a new oven or it's an old oven, then it's cool. You don't need to destroy a new oven. Says the Gemara Kasha, Harabi Haraban. No, this is the machlokes. There's machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda Anasi and the Rabbanim. Says the Gemara, it sounds like what we are hearing from Rabbi is Mishum Diyesh Shavach Eitzim Bepas. The reason that he holds that you are not allowed to eat the bread that you cooked in this oven that was fueled up with Yisurim is because there is some kind of benefit from the eitzim that has gone into the bread. You use this fuel of orla, and now you've baked bread as a result of it. Says the Gemara, Zeh v'zeh garim. Mi shamasle. But have you heard of a case of zeh v'zeh garim? What's the case of zeh v'zeh garim? So Rashi here points out the Rashi that begins says Rashi, Ki shamasle depalig Rebbe ad Rabbanan. What we have heard is that Rebbe disagrees with the Rabbanan. B'yesh shevach eitzim b'pas lechuda. According to Rebbe, we know that if there is benefit from the orla in the bread, then you cannot eat the orla. That we know that he disagrees with the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan mekilit fei. They were much more mekil, v'shara afilu pas lechal, and they held that the bread can even be eaten. The Amr ein shevach etzim ba ela shevach hesek. What is in the bread is not benefit from the trees, but rather of the fire, and that fire is disconnected from the orla. It says v'isur ela shevach hesek v'isur sheba kfar kala, and the isur is gone. Meaning, by the time it becomes fuel, there's no longer orla present. The Rebbe Savar, Rebbe holds, since the fire is still burning there, yeshevach etzim, there's still benefit that's coming from those trees that's going into the bread. It's not just pure fuel at that point in time. There's still trees there. One can make the argument, according to Rebbe, if you have a certain kind of wood that is burning in the oven, that wood itself will impart some kind of flavor, cherry wood or whatever it might be, that is imparting flavor into the bread. The isur gomra, and there's actual isur inside of it. The gabi taran, with regards to the oven, chadash nahi, shevach etzim by. It makes sense that there would be shevach etzim within the oven. Miuhu atzmei ein nechal ela lehesek acher. But with regards to the oven, you're only going to be eating bread that comes out of another fire that's lit inside of it. So, ela lehesek acher omed. V'yofu by v'nimses pas hanefes by nigmeres al yedei isur v'heter atze isur shegomer satanu v'atze heter shegomer sapas v'ha hecha sham in leda asarevi. So the calculation here is as follows. We wanted to say that there is a machlokes. We know that there's machlokes between Rebbe and Rabbanan, says Rashi, with regards to a piece of bread that is baked in an oven where there is etzim of isur. The Rabbanan say that there's no eitzim in the bread, and Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi holds that there is eitzim in the bread. And then we saw another brisa that says that that even an oven doesn't need to be broken. We said lo kasha ha Rabbi v'ha Rabbanan, and then we wanted to say we know that there's shevach eitzim in the pas. But what if zeva zeh gorim? What happens if you have a situation of a new oven that was made through an asur means that you cooked bread inside of it? You have a zeva zeh, meaning the oven is providing some of the heat and the oven is asur, and the eitzim, the new eitzim that you are lighting a fire with, are mutter. This is the case of zeva zeh gorim. You have some isur and some heter. What does Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi hold about that? So we say Elolei Kasha, Rabbi Eliezer v'Haraban. It's not the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. This is a new opinion. This is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. We don't know what Rabbi holds in such a case. We don't have any evidence, but Rabbi Eliezer we do. Says the Gemara, hi Rabbi Eliezer. Which Rabbi Eliezer are we talking about here? If you want to say that the Rabbi Eliezer that we're talking about is Rabbi Eliezer this that it's Rabbi Eliezer that we spoke about with regards to about chametz, the yeast on Pesach. Ditnan, it was taught in the Mishnah, Sa'ar shel chulin, v'shel truma, shenav l'tayich isa. And if you have, Sa'ar shel chulin, v'shel truma, if you have yeast that is chulin and truma, shenav l'tayich isa, that fell into the dough, ve'ein bazeh kedei lahachmitz, but it doesn't have enough yeast to actually create chametz. Ve'ein bazeh kedei lahachmitz, and there isn't enough. Meaning there isn't enough of the chulin to make chametz, and there isn't enough of the truma to make chametz by itself. V'nitztarfu, and then they join together. V'chimtzu, and now there is enough to create this chemical reaction called chimutz. Rabbi Eliezer says, "Achar achran aniba." I paskin that it goes in accordance with whichever one happened last. Meaning, if chulin fell in first and then truma fell in, so then it's awesome. If truma fell in first and then chulin fell in, mutter. Says the Gemara, it says the Brayso, the Chacham say bein navel isur lechatchila bein navel isur levasayf, whichever way it worked, whether the isur came in first or the isur came in second, la'olam eino isur, it's never going to be asur. Why? Achihei by turning on to Chavzan Amud Aleph, achihei by kidei lahachmitz, unless there is enough of either one of those things in order to be machmitz. And Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we will continue with this tomorrow morning. Everybody should have a wonderful day.